All right, we're just letting a few more people in and we're going to get started, guys. We already have a number of people watching live stream. So hi to you in EXP Family Tree. Glad that you guys are watching live stream. I did post the Zoom link again below the live stream in EXP Family Tree in case you can join us on Zoom and you want to be more part of the conversation that way. So go ahead and click that link if you'd like to. Hi, Amanda. Amanda's watching live stream and said hi, ladies. Nice to see you. Keep joining us on live stream. Remember, because it's live streamed in EXP Family Tree, it is in that workplace group forever. It never leaves. We'll also have this recording out on YouTube within 24 hours that you can share with people outside of EXP. Of course, this is open to everyone. If you're here on the Zoom and you are not with EXP, please stay. We just live stream this in one of our workplace groups for all of our partners and agents within our organization. So that is why I'm mentioning that. But this is a training that is for anybody and everybody. This is open. We just want to share and collaborate and contribute. I've been doing this now for about 2.5 years here in EXP Family Tree, believe it or not, straight every single Wednesday. When we first started, we did every Tuesday and Wednesday, 2 different topics. And then we pared it down the last year and we've been doing it for every single Wednesday, unless it was a holiday. And you guys have stuck through it, which is amazing. And we've been able to continue to get awesome people that are willing to come in and share their expertise with us. And that's a pretty amazing thing to think about, that we can, for 2.5 years straight, find people that will come and share, what they're doing great at, what their expertise is. And Courtney is one of those people who's totally willing to contribute. She was introduced to me by a colleague who had her on one of his trainings and said, you have got to have Courtney come in and talk with you. And she was just so open to doing that right from the get-go. And that is just part of our culture here that I'm so proud of. So we're going to get started. But before we do, I just want to brag on Courtney for a minute. Some of you saw my post when I was promoting this, why you wanted to be here. That's why a lot of you are here. Courtney Carroll is the inside sales managing partner for the Jennifer Jones team. And she has literally, you guys, mastered the art of telephone prospecting. She's made over 50,000 phone calls a year. That's not total, that's a year. And is that about right still, Courtney?
Yeah, it's a lot. I just laughed.
And yeah, that's a lot. And she's converted over $350 million in real estate transactions from online leads, you guys, as an ISA. 350 million. But let's put that in perspective. That's because she's willing to make over 50,000 phone calls a year. So that's a question to ask yourself. If, you want to even do a fraction of that, you can get your fair share of real estate transactions as well. I want to go ahead and let you guys know you can follow her on ISA_today_, and that's to get tips, tricks, and to watch all the things that she shares about real estate prospecting. And that is on Instagram. Is that right, Courtney?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll put that in the chat box, ISA_today_. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll
awesome.
do a little QR code thing too.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So, so today we're going to talk about prospecting. Obviously, more than ever in the, the real estate economy we find ourselves in. We talk a lot about prospecting, lead generating, lead conversion, doing the activities in order to get the results. And I believe that there are a lot less realtors willing to do activities today. A lot of people are in a bit of a scarcity mindset or fear-based situation, but not us. Those of us on this call know that we have a huge opportunity to take market share, but I believe in order to take market share, we're gonna have to do more activities. Not only are we gonna have to do more activities, we're gonna have to learn how to hone our skills so the activities that we do are able to actually reap us a better result and reward. That's why we asked Courtney to come on and talk a little bit about her best practices and the things that she's learned over the 50,000 calls a year and over $350 million in closed transactions because of her ISA work. And so without further ado, I'm super excited to welcome you and to have you on, Courtney. Thank you again so much for your time. We know you're super busy, obviously, but yet you're willing to contribute. And for that, we're really grateful.
Oh, thanks so much. What a hard act to follow. Just off my intro, I sound way great now. Can you still see my screen? Okay. I just get so anxious about that. So
we'll let you know if I notice anything, but it looks great.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so as I was just already introduced there, so I am still a licensed real estate agent. I have been for 13 years. I switched over to exclusively inside sales 7 years ago after I had my second daughter. It started just like, oh, this would be casual and part-time. I'd call around just listed, just sold. Since then, we started a website where we capture and generate leads, and this is behind. It is over $350 million. Now that's Canadian, so that's like 17 million, I think, US with this exchange. At least the last time I went shopping over into New York so I could go to Target. The exchange was horrible. That's also converted over $7 million of commissions to our team. So I always say I'm one of Jen's favorite people. I don't know if she's on here to confirm that, but it's true.
I have heard that
So
it would be my favorite person too.
yeah, and so I work exclusively on commission, and I do work for our team. We do a whole bunch of referral because we do get outside of our areas often. But I am on the phone and licensed at the same time. So switching over. So I always love to do a quick disclaimer on things. I am an amazing, if I can brag, inside sales and a horrible real estate agent. So I'm really only offering advice ever on prospecting. If I give you advice otherwise, just ignore it. And the portion of the prospecting that I always like to focus on is simply working with strangers. Those are my favorite people. The just listed, just sold, and then the online leads, which we'll do our focus on right now. And I guess just for housekeeping, if there are any questions, like feel free to interrupt me. I'm pretty easygoing here, maybe too easygoing.
Just raise your hand. You guys know that you can raise your hand, use your little emoji, and then we'll call on you.
Yes. Yeah. Just holler at me. So as far as the telephone prospecting goes, I have done all of these. It's just now that the online has grown so much that my capacity is strictly on that. However, I still train on our team to do all the just listed, just sold, buyers who are looking in a neighborhood, even if that buyer is your child. Realtor.ca or .ca for us, .com in the States, database, all those types of things. And then again, this focus for today, just on the online leads. So why we've gone online leads, kind of like I was saying before, I love strangers. And also, like we were saying at the beginning, it's like it is more challenging now, and you need to try different things to find other people. We can't just rely on our sphere referrals, not if we want to win this like uphill battle. So based on all the statistics over the last 5 or 6 years, 96% of buyers at some point in their buying process will look online for homes. We do it, obviously we do, but everyone does it. So 96% at some point are going to come online. And the first step, once they have decided that they are going to purchase a house, 47% are going to come online to look at houses. 18%, the first thing they'll do is call their real estate agent. And I think, unfortunately, that spread is going to continue as younger generations start buying. That like designated family realtor that used to exist isn't necessarily there, and everyone is just going to go online and look at houses. It's easier. 67% of the people are going to work with the first real estate agent that they work with or that they meet. And so those three numbers really are the vast majority of the reasons why you want to go online, because 96% of those people are going to be there. Half of them are going to go online as their very first step. And then more than half of those people are going to work with the first person, that they meet with. So that's a huge hunk. The other side over here where it's saying, so 10%, and now this is based on the Toronto Real Estate Board. I don't know where else to look for data other than that for me. 10% started with an online inquiry. So they were interested in a specific property and then inquired. So that's 10% of our transactions. So we had 75,000 transactions last year. 7,500 of those was an online inquiry. So having a web presence that collects data and attracts leads is uber important because that's a huge, again, chunk of the market. As far as average in the industry, the return on investment is 12 to 1. Every $1,000 you spend properly on online lead generation, that's either like your platform, attracting people, advertising, Every 1,000 should translate into $12,000 commission. My whole 6 years were just over 16-1. Again, Jen, I'm Jen's favorite. That's how I've managed it. Those are our numbers, including all of the costs associated with running the inside sales program. They work, and that's just because I needed something to finish my circle here, and I didn't know what other statistic to put in there. So from a visual aspect, why online leads is because they do work. If I'm going too fast, just yell at me here. Okay, so here is the math. And so I started in 2017, and I can confidently tell you that 2023 was the hardest year, not hardest, required the
Have a
most
great day. Bye.
Oh, thank you. 2023, again, I apologize for not knowing everyone's market, but for us here, 2023 was required the most amount of work. We still grew, which is always the goal, to just do better than the year before. And we did do that. It just required a lot more activity than in the previous years. So these, I like to say, are the worst case scenario numbers when done properly. And this is when calling online leads, like bot lists, like once we've been doing it for a while. So I have a large database that I'm working with. Also just listed, just sold, any of those type of telephone prospecting, it's pretty much the same number. And that's 1 in every 10 people are going to actually answer the phone. So I make 10 phone calls and 1 person I'll have a conversation with. Last year, again, doomsday, it took 25 conversations before I was actually able to book somebody into an appointment to come and meet one of the real estate agents. And that's the number probably that had the most dramatic increase. And that's because so many people were understandably hesitant about the market, the interest rates, and what was everything going on. So there was a lot of that. So which was okay. It doesn't mean that those 24 conversations, those leads are now, dead to us in a sense. They're just not ready yet. And so, those 24, I'm going to carry them forward, and we're going to circle back to them again. And when they're ready, they'll buy. We actually just did a $2.1 million property, who had registered in 2019, offered in 2020, and then has been like, no. And then they just bought like 3 weeks ago. So we just carry them along, those 24 people. And then now for that, 1 in every 25 that you book, every 5 new appointments that were set turned into a transaction. So that's not booking John, and then every 5 times John goes out, he buys a place. It's like 5 different Johns. And then one of those people will turn into a transaction. Again, not that those 4 others don't, it's just, they're not yet. They come another time. Some are never. Some are, people are always like, oh, that guy was nuts. I'm like, well, yeah, like he was a website lead. He doesn't have any real estate agent friends. Of course he's strange. And he's a strange guy who wants to buy a house. So their money's great too. We love helping them. So some of them, yes, they don't work out. And then some of them don't work out yet, and they will at a later time. These are just sort of the blanket numbers based on all the appointments set, and then how many turned in transaction. So again, hopefully people are numbers people. That's just me. That's how I talk. 1,250 phone calls I make turns into a deal. So I consistently, that's why 50, oh, that's just the wind. 50,000 phone calls, and I did 57 transactions from it. So you just kind of doing your numbers there. I always say every one phone call I make turns into $1,000 of real estate transactions. Even if they don't answer, or they do answer, it's kind of regardless. I also do the math on then how much money I make, which is fun because it's like, okay, every 1 phone call turns into $5 commission, except for when your kids are on board and then they're like, can we get Starbucks? And it's like, no, you're 10. They're like, and it's $8 for like a slushy thing. They're like, well, we'll just wait while you make phone calls. And I'm like, oh, like, so it becomes our currency, but it's fun. So those are all the numbers. And understandably, if you're not already picking up the phone, 1,250 phone calls sounds like a crap load of work. And it is. I always say it's not easy, it is simple, and it's just a matter of doing it. So here we go, breaking down numbers some more. 1,250 calls based on low and high answer rates. If you're following up with people, they're more likely to answer. If they're a new lead, they're more likely to answer. So a mix of it turns into about 50 phone calls an hour on average. The average house price here, I apologize if you are in somewhere where they're dramatically lower, is 836,000, with the average commission on the buyer side being 2.25. This translates into $18,000 commission or $752 an hour for prospecting. So yes, it is a lot of work. It's simple work, and it can be done in your pajamas and turns into more money than any of us get paid by the hour at any previous employment, or we likely would never have left. I would never have left somewhere if they gave me $750 an hour. So I'm just assuming. So that's sort of the mathematics on telephone prospecting for online leads. And again, if anyone has questions, I feel weird, just like I'm ramming at everybody. Okay, so here are tips and tricks, I guess, setup successes. And so the best answer rates are between 8 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock in the morning, and 4 o'clock and 6 p.m. And the best days are Wednesday and Thursdays. And those asterisks are, the reality is anytime you dial is a great time. I start my dialing at 8:30 in the morning. That's after my girls have gone to school, and it ends at 3:50 because that's when they get back. So I'm still calling at 1 o'clock because that's when I dial. So don't get too bent up on it. Unless you only had 2 hours a day, then yes, designate it for those times. And then Wednesday and Thursday, this is Harvard. They are way smarter than me. And I think they're wrong because I do great on Mondays. I do amazing on Fridays. You get people who don't have plans for the weekend. Why don't we just go and look at some properties? It's super casual and it's easy. Every day converts. And again, I dial every single day. Well, 5 days a week and then the occasional Saturday. This is the biggest one, and especially for agents who are out and actively, you have home inspections, you have showings, is actually treating your dial time like it's a meeting and it's non-negotiable. So for us, it's always like, okay, home inspections, they start at 11. Like they're not available from 9 till 10 or whatever time your prospecting time is, and everything gets scheduled around. If it's like you can't do anything about it, yeah, you have to, do the live deal that trumps everything. And then in which case, just make sure you're scheduling it. And I just always push back on too, that was mathematics. Like when you actually treat it like, okay, every single phone call I make $5. It should be a lot easier for you to do it, like a good visual to be like, no, I have to sit here for an hour and make these 50 phone calls or whatever it works out to, that it's like, because I'll make $400 and nothing else is going to trump that. So anyways, just deciding when you are going to do it and then schedule that, and then everything else works around it. If you are working the online leads that come in live, the answer rate is, if you call within 5 minutes, you're 21 times more likely that you're ever going to reach them versus if you call after 30 minutes. So that's the biggest thing. Like as soon as they've registered, I call them. Sometimes it's like uber fast and they'll tell you it's uber fast. And it's like, oh yeah, well, we try to be efficient. Are you looking to make a move in the next? It's just, yeah, I know I'm fast and like, I'm just trying to help you. So don't worry about like giving them there's agents have that awesome way of coming up with all this rationale. It was like, well, I want them to look at a few houses or just pick it up and call them. And then it takes an average of 6 calls before you actually do reach that lead. And sadly, 74% of real estate agents are going to give up after the third phone call. So they'll never actually reach those leads, which is great for me. However, if you're the agent not making those 6 calls, at least, you're really missing out on a huge market. We just sold one and it was 31 times. I had called them 31 times before they answered. There's no thought involved for me because they just kind of like live in this list and then they get captured and then onto my dial list. So I don't actually know how many times I call them until they answer, and then I book it and I'm like, oh God, like it's pretty crazy of me, wasn't it? Like I called you so many times. And again, it pays the bills. Like I don't know, like I don't know. Maybe I just should care more what people think, but I also really like making money and winning. So I keep going.
Hey, Courtney, we've got a couple of questions in the chat bar. I don't know if you saw those.
I don't. Do you want me to answer them or do you want to wait? I only have another couple slides or.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, no
No,
worries.
no,
You had said before the slide to go ahead and ask some questions, and I just saw
Yes.
some things pop up.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
that's
perfect.
whatever works best for you.
Yeah, no, ask
Let's
them
let
if you
her
want.
finish and then I'll go through those for you, Courtney.
Oh,
'cause I know you
okay,
can't
yeah.
see 'em. That'd be
Yeah,
great.
I'm not in charge. I'm just I'm just a telemarketer, guys. I don't know where you wanted to go. Okay, so setting up for success, this is crucial, and this is me failing so many times that I've created this schedule. I'm an early person, I like to wake up first thing in the morning and then do your workouts, and then before my kids wake up, because I'm like I always say like a mom shift, from 7 till 8:15. So before that, I've done any emails that I have to answer, that are like thought provoking. Prepping, creating my list, everything like that is done so so there is no, I was like there's no thought involved in my day for the dialing, because otherwise if you stop and think, you come up with excuses and reasons and like nerves set in. So all of that is done super early in the morning or at the end of the night when the Blue Jays, I don't know if you got baseball fans, when they're playing, that's a great time. I do all of those things, creating my list so that when dial hours, like for me, 8:30 till 4 are on, nothing but calls. Creating a marketing campaign with those processes. So you're going to have different types of leads. If I haven't talked to somebody, then they have this whole chain of text messages and emails, and all of that is automated. So again, like I just want to eliminate any thought because I'm like a multitasker. I'm doing all these things. Usually I'm dialing on a hiking trail, or somewhere else. So there's no thought. All of those texts and emails are automated. There are people who I say they're like those follow-ups that I have to handhold. So those are those thought-provoking ones that are done in the morning and evening. Even sometimes for the text messages, I'll like write out what I want to say at 5:30 in the morning and then save it and then send it after. And then also then there's leads that you're going to talk to, and they're not really like uber important. There is no real rush. They're not garbage. So they'll have their own separate series of emails and text messages and then reminders for you to call them like quarterly or however it is. So creating that process and then just like, one whole weekend where you're thinking of everything you want to say for the next 2 years to somebody, set that all up so you don't have to think, and the less thought, the easier it is. Headsets, I have a whole bunch of them. The AirPod Pros, the ones that you can beep when you lose them, those are great because I have two because I lose them. And they also have survived 2 washing machine sessions each, so they're waterproof-ish, which is great. I have Beats when I feel gangster and I want to walk around with big headsets. But really it doesn't have to be super fancy. It is a game changer though for multitasking. A dialer, we have a few different options. There are some that integrate if you're like KV Core or Commissions Inc. or Agent Locator, any of those are awesome and simple. If you want to get into the world of just listed, just sold, then I recommend Mojo Dialer. In fact, my dog is now named Mojo. We rescued a dog. I showed up at this big hairy mutt and I named him after my dialing software. So it was real healthy. Lots of material for marriage counseling. But that's a really good dialing software and it has an awesome app for dialing on the go. And then tracking your numbers. I can send like a screenshot, I guess, of those numbers that I had. or post them somewhere, like just as like a guideline. And like, for me, it's not every 25 calls books an appointment, but it's like, if I look at the whole year, those numbers line up pretty awesome. Just so you can be like, oh, are my lists crappy because 1 in every 50 are actually answering me, or is my phone number blocked on spam, or is something happening there? Did I have 100 conversations and no one booked? Well, maybe I'm not good on the phone, like, maybe I need better scripts. Or have I gone and met 17 people and no one wants to buy with me? Well, like, maybe you shouldn't be a real estate agent. Like, those are all flags that you want to just kind of target around. Being consistent and realistic, it takes months to get the momentum. Yes, every once in a while you get someone who registers and they go out and they buy a house within 2 weeks. A niece on our team just did like a crazy $3 million of real estate off someone who just registered. However, for the most part, it does take months, and it's just having faith that this all works out. I'm doing all the right things. The activity is happening and it will show up eventually is so important, because people give up way too soon and miss out on like this gold mine. And I can just say it comfortably because it's 7 years of doing it. It took me 6 months to get it up and rolling, and I've never not had a consistent paycheck. I think the lowest I've ever had was like 8 outstanding transactions. Like, it's just a constant roll, because I've never taken my foot off the pedal.
Mm.
And the motivation, I suck at motivating people. I'm numbers and winning. So I just do it. But figure it out. People put little pictures and make themselves happy and motivated. So I figure it out, whatever it is. And then just keep it there, because again, it can be grueling and it works. So
Mhm.
that's it. That's all I had, I think. Did I
Yeah,
talk
so
enough?
everybody click the QR code so you can follow her on Instagram. She does do quite a bit of things there, and you can also schedule a Zoom call with her. We have questions. I'm gonna ask theirs first. I have a few
Okay.
too, but I'm gonna ask theirs first because maybe they're thinking in alignment with me. The first one is, are you personally leveraging VAs, or is this your calling alone that we're talking about?
I do not use, so that's like a heated thing. We don't have virtual assistants.
Okay.
When we hire ISAs, I'm excited to have someone who can, when we've hired them, they've made $80,000 a year. They're moms. They don't have to be moms, but they're moms. They put their kids to school, they get their kids off the bus. And I think outsourcing that to someone virtually is a shame, when you can have somebody down the street that you can pay really good money, because they're going to make you really good money. So,
Yeah.
and
as far as your activities go, you're doing the activities. You don't have anybody supporting you specifically to make these 50,000 calls. Okay.
yeah, no. Oh yeah,
Okay.
no, those are just me and our ISAs. They probably make less, but I really want to win. They're probably like 20,000 a year.
Yeah. Okay.
15,
Yeah.
20,000.
So
Yeah.
can you tell that Courtney's competitive? I think what you need to do is you need to like generate some sort of competitive edge in you if you don't have it. That's where all of her motivation is coming from. And she's a numbers person. And even if you're not a numbers person, I'd encourage you to train yourself to be a numbers person, because it does put you in control of your life and your business. And Courtney knows if she makes a certain amount of calls, she's going to make a certain amount of money. And if she ups that, she'll make more, because she's now got evidence of 7 years. And so she tracks her numbers and she knows. And so I would just encourage you, even if you're doing a fraction of the calling that Courtney does, is to track those numbers, because it creates evidence, and that's actually going to motivate you. And so Colin, you might've missed this at the beginning though. She does do cold leads and hot leads both. They have a lot of online leads coming in, but right now, Courtney, and I know that has evolved. So maybe talk a little bit about that. As it's evolved over the 7 years, you did circle prospecting, calling around just solds, just listed, all of those things. Obviously, that's very cold calling and outbound calling. You also take inbound calls for leads, and you're also calling leads that are maybe registering on your website. Just maybe give a little clarification.
Yeah, that's so right. I originally started calling around the just listed, just solds, and buyers looking in the neighborhoods. That was working great for us. And then it just was like, oh, let's try and add this. This will be like a fun little extra thing. So it's just that those online leads have grown so much that like from a time capacity, I don't do those anymore. I just train our agents on how to call the just listed, just sold. When it comes to the online leads, so once they've registered on the website, so those would be like live and, warmish. So then I'll call them right away. And if they don't answer, then they go to live in like essentially our pond. I'll call them 2 to 3 times a day for their first 7 days of their life. They're also getting the texts and emails at the same time. And then, days 8 to 15, they'll get 2 phone calls a day. And then after 15 days, they'll get 1. And then strictly from a numbers, will after the 30 days will be like when they come into my list or don't come into my list, or should they do something like if they go on and they're active. I just have a series of filters. I just don't have to. I choose to dial 200 phone calls a day. So it really is just depending on how many people have been active. Honestly, it's been slower this year as far as people registering. So I might be capturing older leads. And they're just as good. Like I will just throw down, okay, I'm going to go hit a hiking trail today. I'll put in 400 numbers and my filter might be, okay, who registered on the website 2000 days ago that I never reached, and I'll call them because like people go on and, the average is 18 months from when they register online to when they're actually looking to buy. People get divorced, people bought and now they're selling it. Like they're kind of always there. So I'll just throw whoever. It's really, I don't know.
Yeah. And so I love what she just said. I mean, somebody who's choosing to make 200 calls a day, period. That's just what she does. She's not afraid to call old leads because she's got, again, the evidence that it doesn't matter. If you make that many calls, you're going to have people that are looking to do something, and it's all just about finding the right timing. And that is a numbers game. We've talked about this before. Sales is a numbers game. So it's just confirmation from somebody that, makes 50,000 calls a year. So Colin asked, what does your schedule look like to meet with them? Do you jump on an appointment to go show, but you didn't hear that call and she doesn't sell. So how do you make that handoff, just out of curiosity, Courtney?
Yeah, so it's almost people aren't ever listening anyways. So like, it's usually just like, oh, I'll have, perfect. Okay. I've got you booked in for Sue on Friday and she'll do that. And they're like, oh, okay, awesome. There are some that, that I say are like those handhold ones that I've been nurturing, that they're like, wait, what? So that's a little strange for them. And it's like, you know what? I want to make sure you're working with the person who has the best, like, who's equipped the best, that is most knowledgeable of the waterfronts or, specializes in that area so that we're showing up at our highest level. And you know what? That's Anna. So Anna's going to meet you on Friday and I'm still here this whole time. If you have questions, like reach out to me. Anna's the person though, who's going to help you the best. And so it's from that. And then they're confused because they don't necessarily, I don't say like, hi, I'm an inside salesperson.
No, right.
I haven't shown a house in 4 or 5 years. I had a couple handholds that I would go and I would meet, because they were like, wait, no, we want to work with you. Just from like I've got so hyper focused on this one thing that when I get off of my routine or my schedule, like if you like miss the gym after like 2 days and then you go and it's all, I don't know, where's the bench press? So like, I try not to. I've not tried. I'm committed to not doing showings. So.
Yeah. And I love this. So anybody who wants to double down on calling, but knows they can't go and service every client, that is something that worked for us. And I love that you said that as well, Courtney, which is all you have to do is just whatever they're looking for, whatever kind of property it is, all you have to say is, oh, that's fantastic. My colleague so-and-so is like an expert in that area. So in order to service you the best, I'm just going to go ahead and schedule that showing with her right now. And most people are like, okay, I want the expert in that area.
Yeah, thank you.
They are really appreciative that you're saying that you're not, which actually makes them think that you're not a really hardcore salesperson because you're not even trying to just go for it, even though you're not the expert.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways to do that without feeling like you have to be everywhere, because the problem is if you are servicing all these buyers, you're probably not going to be able to make your 200 calls. And that's what Courtney, you said at the beginning, which is obviously, that's the advantage you have, is to stay on the phones.
Right.
And there are realtors that can go service clients and stay on the phones as well. But these are some leverage points that you guys could pick up on.
Right. 100%. And getting comfortable, it's like an abundance thing with doing referrals.
Mhm.
Because it is in the person's best interest to have someone who's like
Right.
the local expert, and just get comfortable once it is outside your area, like get in the referral business. It's a great way
Yes.
to make passive income and a better use of your time than driving 3 hours to an area you've never been and showing houses and stuff. So, I
Right.
mean, that's just the way to create it too.
So Jen had said, where do you get so many numbers? And so she's just talking about in her geographical area, there's only so many expireds a month. But I don't know if you saw this, Jen. I think you came on a little bit later. You can circle prospect. So I'm sure, you grabbed, it sounded like phone numbers from around just solds, just listed, and in certain neighborhoods, right, Courtney? So anybody
Yep.
can do that.
Yeah, we're actually not allowed to call expireds here in Canada.
Yeah, right.
Which they sound pretty juicy.
Yeah,
But
you would
yeah.
love it.
So ours are just listed, just sold, and it doesn't have to be our team who listed or sold. It could be your
Yes.
brokerage. And like, honestly, I would call around the Toronto Real Estate Board, like any house that just got listed or just got sold, and use those
Right.
scripts. Or if there's like a dream neighborhood you want to be with, like I have buyers who would love to live in your neighborhood,
Yeah.
even if it's, I was the buyer and I couldn't afford it, but I'm not lying.
Because you
And
would love to live in that
I
neighborhood.
would love to live there. I just need to sell your house so I can afford to, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, as long as you're going to be a good agent, I always think like I'm passionate in those things where for those phone calls is like, I truly believe we are the best people to help them. And I'm doing a disservice if I allow them to get into the hands of, an agent that's not going to do a good job. So
That's right. That script right there is a script you should use. And first and foremost, if you don't believe that about yourself, then that's the first thing that you should work on. Because if you truly do believe that about yourself, then you have no problem calling people. Right.
yeah.
And so that might be what the hang up is. So question, do you leave messages and do you double dial if people hang up on you or don't pick up?
Hang up or don't pick up. I don't call them right back. Yeah, I've seen the
Mhm.
double tap, or I don't do that. And I almost never leave voicemails unless it's someone who knows who I am and they're like a long-term nurture. I'll leave a voicemail because I really just want to remind them, hey, it's me. And then I'll call them again next month. Every like quarter or so, maybe not, maybe twice a year, I'll have one of those let's try voicemail days that are pre-recorded, so it's not using my energy. So again, it's strictly numbers and no one's going to call me back. And there are arguments both ways. There are people who will say, leave that like, oh, hi, it's Courtney. It's really important. Call me. And don't tell them why. And then they call back and you're like, oh yeah, I was calling about your home search. Yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't do it. So if I am going to, it's pre-recorded and it's just one of those blitz days where I'm loading up 500 people and I'm going in the middle of nowhere on a trail and I'll just click the buttons. So
Yeah, so that is actually a good point. So Courtney was talking to me a little bit, and I'm going to get to a couple more questions, Courtney, but Courtney was telling me a little bit when we were talking on the phone prior to this, scheduling this training, that, you don't have to just be sitting behind your desk making these calls. And oftentimes she goes for hikes and calls, she goes for walks, she's out on a trail, she's doing it in different places because it keeps her motivated, and you can integrate this into your life. You don't have to just feel like you're trapped at your desk. Most realtors don't like feeling that way. And so,
yeah.
as you said that, Courtney, like talk just really briefly about some of the things that you do,
Yeah.
maybe some of these hacks that you've created to help you stay so consistent on your calling.
And that's such a big thing. I should have done actually just did one yesterday all about it. So depending on your list, so if you're using a dialer, so these are only for people that I've never talked to before. So my script stays the same if they registered 3 minutes ago or 3 years ago. As far as like hey, you were online looking at properties, you're thinking about making a move. And so once it's only the 20 seconds that is the same no matter what. You can take it anywhere. So I was cleaning out my closet this morning, doing it all. We're going away, and I always think I'm gonna die, and then someone's gonna judge me on my deathbed about my closet not being clean. So I did that while I did my dials today, or fold laundry, or hiking trail. And so if you know you're gonna say the same thing, and again, I take all the thought out of my day because I'm going to say that same thing. These are all complete strangers, so I'd only need to talk when they answer, which we know is only 1 in every 10. So for those other 9, like it would be so boring. I would never be able to do what I do if I just sat here and did those calls. So if you have a dialing software, if you don't, you can export your list into Excel and then open it on your phone. And instead of clicking download, if you click view, it turns all the phone numbers into hyperlinks. So then you can just be on your phone and like click dial and then dial, but you're not doing it like this because you have a headset. Click dial, and then it speeds through the list. So it keeps it really fast. And then you just get comfortable. Like I know the trails that are really great and the ones that aren't. So then I go out, and again, I have this big furry mutt. So like he's gonna have an eye on the ground for me. You might not want to be like a woman going on a trail by yourself with 2 pods and not paying attention. You would just do one.
Right.
But yeah, so for me, it's the multitasking that has allowed the consistency, and it makes it part of this lifestyle. And I go on vacation, and I do almost every day when I'm on vacation, which is good or bad, 2 hours of solid prospecting. But again, I know how much money I make an hour if I do dialing. We're in sales. I can convince you and my husband when it's like a cold thing, it's like, I'm gonna go prospect in like Orlando for the week because I'll be able to pay for it, because if I dial every day, I can justify this vacation. So I'm constantly grabbing a kid, or we're all going away or something to go and dial. I want to go visit my aunt in Portland, Oregon. So I just went, and then I just call for like 2 or 3 hours with a like roam from home package, and it literally pays for every vacation. Trust me, I can make any vacation make sense right now. I'm working on France right now. I'm like, I should take my 10-year-old, and if I call with the time change, like, it'll be great. So
I love your attitude. So I did not know that. I don't know if you heard that, Colin, because you asked the question about how are you making these calls on your phone, like while you're hiking. So confirm what you said, Courtney, about the Excel spreadsheet. So in other words, if you download it, like in your, tell me how I'm opening that up in my phone.
yeah, so if you don't have a dialer, so I have a dialer, so I am like fortunate there, and you can
what
buy.
dialer, Courtney, do you use?
Okay, so I used to use the Mojo dialer. So that, and then right now though, I'm only using the Commissions Inc. one, but that's simply because those are the leads that I'm focusing all my energy on right now. So it didn't make sense for me to continue to take them out, put them into Mojo, only to put them back. So either one of those, I think the Mojo dialer is $80 a month. And you can load any lists from any, like you can download from Agent Locator, KV Core, any of those, as well as Circle Prospect, all within that app. And then, but otherwise, yeah, if you don't have any software and you don't want to spend money, and like that's what's so great about this prospecting is there is $0 to get into it. So there's nothing but your time. And you can do it in PJs if that's what you want. You export it all into an Excel and then email it to yourself. And if you click view instead of download, the phone numbers all become hyperlinks. So you just have to click on it and then click dial. So it's just faster. You're not typing in a phone number when you're on a trail. You're just click this, click that, click, like it's again, there's no thought involved, which is lovely. That was it.
Perfect. So Mojo, for those of you that asked that, very inexpensive. So if you were using Mojo, and you were on a hike, is that possible? How does that work with your phone? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, there's an app for that. It's like a dialing thing. Same with the Sync one. And you just I load it all up beforehand. So I know, okay, who are these people? And then, all right, I know what I'm going to say. And now I don't have to worry about it until they pick up.
Awesome. So your 2 favorite scripts that have been the most successful for you, or the go-to scripts that you use?
Well, probably just the online lead one. And it's the first 20 seconds, which is, hi, it's Courtney. You had been online looking at some properties. Are you thinking about making a move in the next 3 to 6 months or just browsing? They always say just browsing. And it's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what that's for. Now, was there anything specific that prompted you to start browsing? And now they can't say anything other than what prompted them because they've just said it. And they always say browsing because they think that's the way to like end the conversation with you. Then the true serum comes up, and then, it's just a matter of having a normal conversation, asking them lots of questions, building rapport. And then for me, it's the tone. I'm pretty casual person. I mean, like a telemarketer. So it's always like, oh, awesome. Yeah. Like, why don't we have someone pop by, give you a quick evaluation of your home, see what it is. So I'm very nonchalant, or like,
Yes.
oh yeah, I know you're still a little whiles away. Why don't we go look at some waterfronts this weekend, just to kind of get a feel for it. And then like, because you've asked them lots of questions and you are casual, you're not like, I watch videos and there's people and they have these hard closes and these like sneaky things, and like, I've never had one of those conversations. It's very boring. Like everyone's always like live dial on stage. I'm like, it's so boring. Like I'm very uninteresting, but it works out when it's supposed to work out. When the people are ready, they do. And if not, that's cool. I'll catch you next month, and I'll keep, like, I continuously follow up with people for years until they're ready. So
Yep. So I love this. If you notice what she said is, oh yeah, you're just looking, but let's still go look at this. Oh, I know you're out of ways and you're just browsing, but why don't we just swing by just so you have that information? And so you're validating and saying, I know you're not serious, even though that's probably not the truth. And that's a really, really successful way to communicate with people, is to say that you understand what they're saying, and yet you're still prompting them to do something next to move the needle forward. So I love that you said that. I think also what comes across, because you're so confident in the numbers, Courtney, is that you're unattached to the outcome. You're not like, I have to close this person today, because it's not about that. If you call enough people, you're going to get enough clients. And so the problem what we all run into, I think, as real estate agents, is if we're not calling enough people and we're not talking to enough people, then we only have a few chances and we have to hard close those people because that's all we have. If we have enough coming in and we have confidence, then we'll become naturally unattached to each outcome of each call. And we'll come across a lot more nonchalant, less pressuresome, and very chill, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
And people are very responsive to that.
Oh, that was so, no one's ever interpreted it. Now I'm like, oh, that makes
Great
sense.
job. Yeah, no, you like,
I didn't even know what I was
are the
doing.
epitome of that, which is amazing. So what is your favorite script for if somebody's going to call around just sold or just listed? Because everybody on this call right now, you could take any listing or any just sold. By the way, you don't have to have just listed or just sold it. All you're doing is calling and saying to somebody that something has just been sold or listed around them. And you're basically just giving them the information. So every single person could have an unlimited amount of people to call around, or even door knock around from something like this. On a regular basis. And so I want to just give them something that would be helpful to them if they want to go do something and maybe they don't want to do the dial, or they don't have lists yet, or things like that. What would be, what has been successful, or what would you train those agents on how to start that conversation if that's what they're doing?
Yeah, so I think just for me, again, just the way my personality is coming in from the other way, being like, oh yeah, like, do you have any friends or family who are thinking about moving in the neighborhood, rather than like going in for the kill, which is what agents are so usually do, right? Is like, do you want to sell? I do it that way, where it's like, yeah, do you have any friends or family who might move into the neighborhood? And then they're like, oh. And then it kind of gets them thinking. And then afterwards and be like, oh, okay, now, some buyers might come and look at this house and, not choose it. Obviously, they'll love this neighborhood. If they were interested in your house, would you consider making a move? So it's that way. But first I break down that barrier with not asking them to sell, because everyone else is called to ask them if they want to sell. And then afterwards be like, well, I'm just throwing out this idea. But that's just how it's all, very casual for me.
Love it. Who do you know that's looking to sell in your area? I'm just calling around because
Good.
we a property just sold and there were multiple people looking at that property. Of course, only one person was able to buy it. So since people are looking at your neighborhood right now, there are buyers that are interested. We just thought we'd see if there's anybody else who might be prompted or interested in thinking about selling their home. When you take it off of them, to your point, then it's a total different script than what everybody else is saying to them. And it probably almost throws them off in
Right.
a good way, right? To keep the conversation going. I love that.
So
I
great.
love that. So 2 more things that I had questions on here. What do you attribute to the slowness this year? I think you mentioned that it was just taking more calls and more work to get the same results this year. Is there anything in specific that you are attributing that to, or did you notice anything different with online leads this year?
So I mean, the transactions for our board was down dramatically. I think it was almost 20% down. So there was that. Again, we still did grow, which is like, that's the win. And I've been told, because I've been all over the people, is like the cost per click is up with and my husband has a home improvement company. So, and they have sort of the similar issue is like with elections and everything going on, the cost to get people online has gone up dramatically because there's more people fighting for attention. So that's why. So it just means we might not be getting as much new ones. The importance of going back to older leads and getting the information that we already have and using that. It's just.
Yeah. And so you
Just
probably
more
have to
calls.
make more of those calls to get somebody who's ready to buy, just simply because you're going back to old leads, but that doesn't mean you're not getting them. It's just
Right.
taking you a few more calls or maybe a lot more calls, but you're doing it and you're still getting into transactions, and that's the goal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like for us, we had that craze in COVID and I was at like 850. I said it was like this awesome year. But I have weird anxiety where I was like, I'm probably missing too many deals because I
Yeah.
can't, there is so much activity, right? So we were
Yes.
missing more deals. And so, yeah, I just say it's just more calls I have to make, and I'm okay with it because the outcome is, it's pretty cushy. It's
Yeah,
pretty
still
great
there.
what we get.
Yeah.
So.
When you're on the go and you were talking about that Excel spreadsheet or even using a Mojo dialer on the go, is there an easy way to make notes? How do you make notes?
On the go, well, they're like the apps all have like the notes
Okay.
section, so you can just like type it away in there. Sometimes you'll get like spotty, like my phone might be working, but the internet, then I like text myself.
Mhm.
If I'm dialing and sitting down and you can do the Excel, then having it open on your computer and then
Right.
putting notes. I mean, you don't really have that many impactful conversations in a
Right.
day
Yeah.
that I have to take any real crazy notes. Like if someone says just looking and they tell me all these other things, but I know you're going to live on this campaign, it's like, to me, just from a pure functionality, I'm like, I don't really care. Not that I don't care, but I don't really care.
Yeah, you don't need those notes because they're not really that serious. You just know that you're going to be following up with them
I'm
anyway.
going to follow up with them, and I don't want to read anything that was like, well, my boyfriend, I don't want to read that because it's going to create like an energy for me in 4 months that it's like, well, I don't necessarily want to know that in 4 months.
Yeah.
So you really only have a handful of important phone calls a day, and so
So you
you
can just text yourself or something like that. And then
text
go back and
myself, and
import 'em.
then when I'm back home watching the Blue Jays,
Mhm.
I can put all my notes in on the computer then. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
less is so much more.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good point, because unless it's something very important, to your point, you don't want anything that's going to make you feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't call them because
Yeah.
they said they weren't going to be ready. We don't want to know that or remember that, because anything that deters us, right, makes it harder for us to make those calls.
Yeah.
Is not a good thing. Yeah. Hey, Colin, you had some more questions about script or something like that. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you have anything. And anybody else that we didn't get something or wants to make a comment the last 5 minutes, just raise your hand, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Cari. Yeah, I was just kind of taking some notes on that. So it sounds like on your online lead script where you're going into it, you do ask a closed question at first, and then you open it up to an open question. And then I just kind of wondered if you toyed with that a little bit and kind of tried to perfect those talk tracks, and what seemed to be the best, or kind of convert the best for you.
Yeah, no, probably not as much as I should, to be honest. Like as far as closing at a later time, you mean? Like at later on in the conversation, asking them?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where you got to keep them interested up front. And I know a lot of people here probably listen to Jeremy Minor, Grant Cardone, or some of those other people where, you're kind of perfecting that quick, keep them interested, but don't bore them so you lose them. I didn't
Right.
know if there was, what you'd gone through that seemed to help you convert at a higher level. Because I know I was looking at your stats, it's like, hey, 1,250 calls to make a deal. But what does that, when you tweak those talk tracks, what seems to be.
Oh,
Muted.
Oh, I muted
there you go.
myself.
Yeah. Well, probably, Colin, that's probably the perfect segue. Yeah, like just letting them talk more and asking them more questions constantly so that they're building rapport and telling me all things so that you can like later use it, oh, well, well, wouldn't it be so great to be close to your grandkids or things like that? But I don't think I have those right talk tracks, but you're like talking to my husband because he has these fancy marketing people and he comes home and tells me all the time I need to do that. And there's a software, I can't think of what it's named, that I'm committed to buying this month so that I can go back and find more patterns in what I'm saying that's converting, because it's so conversational that I'm not tracking it as well as I am my introduction and all that. That's like a perfect art.
And I know we went roundabout on it, and it might be different in Ontario than it is, say, in the States. But for your circle prospecting tools, and obviously because you're not allowed to call expireds and things up there, what resources are you seeing that are the best to actually pull those numbers? Like, I know you were saying you were looking at like the Toronto board or whatever else, but I'm kind of curious what tools you're using for that.
Yeah, like just the tele-listing service. I don't know if that's what you have yours, and then you can filter out your do not contacts, but it's really just pulling up what just sold, what's listed, and then like knowing those areas or doing the map ones, and then you can integrate like or just put an address into like Mojo or like the tele-listing, and then it'll pull all the areas around you and then remove their do not contact. So that would be probably the only resource we would have for that.
Okay, that's fair. I didn't realize that Mojo did that.
Yeah, Mojo integrates with the tele-listing or wherever your service is. You're able to pay that subscription to it, and then you can actually use the map. I'm visual. Can you see? Because I'm showing you what it looks like in my head. There's a map on Mojo that it integrates with. That's newer. That is probably the last year that they've started doing that.
Awesome.
And if you've got a team structure, and I'm assuming you do, if you're not going on those like buyer appointments,
Yep.
couple of questions within this. Are you focusing primarily on your buyer-centric business, or are you dedicating a data listing side? Do you delineate between the two?
No, so I'm almost exclusively with the online leads now, which are 70% buyers. We're currently running a sellers campaign for online. I don't love it because they're about 3 or 4 times more per lead for a seller lead. And I haven't found that they converted any differently. However, 30% of my deals were still sales last year, and that's because a vast majority of the buyers are sellers also. So targeting them makes the most sense, I think.
Mhm.
Is that what you wanted?
That's good.
Yeah, no, I think so. And then within that, because you're kind of dialing, and I don't know how much you're actually going out. And if you don't want to reveal this, that's totally fair. How are you tipping out? Are you taking a referral fee when you're doing that? If you've got that
Yeah,
team.
I don't show houses, and I'm paid 25%. I'm not paid anything hourly, and that
Perfect.
turns into really great money,
Yes, it does.
especially working from home in
Yes,
middle of
that's
nowhere.
great. Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome. I'm getting pinged in the background by some people, and so that's why I wanted to make sure I asked that question.
Oh,
Yes, yes. That's great. Great. I was going to ask that too, and I'm glad you kept going, Colin, on that. Awesome. Well, this is amazing. We had a ton of people watching us live. Thanks to all of you that joined us live here on Zoom. This is going to be up on my YouTube channel within 24 hours. If you want to share it with anybody else, you want to watch it again, you want to pull out those scripts that Courtney shared with us, etc. And it is live streamed in EXP Family Tree Workplace Group. It'll stay there forever. You can also find Courtney in Workplace, I'm sure, if you need anything, but also go ahead and don't forget to take a picture of this QR code and connect with her, especially on Instagram. Courtney, thank you so much. We're going to have
Thanks
you
so
come
much.
back and we're going to have you do your other class, which is like all the cool ways that you lead generate outside of just sitting in front of a desk, because I think that's going to be super fun. We'll do that maybe in a couple of months if you're up for it. We love having you. We really appreciate you, and let us know how we can help you to reach out to me if I can help you with anything, because I do want to reciprocate the favor for sure.
Oh, no, great. Thank you so much.
Thanks everybody for joining. Have a great day. Get out there and get calling. No
Thanks so
excuses
much for putting
anymore.
us on, Cari. Thank you, Courtney, for your
Yes,
time.
thanks guys. See you.
Thanks so much.